Hold on, Eric. Nobody can hear you. Technical difficulties? No, I think, just, yeah.
Wait, yes?
What about now? Can people hear
Maggie
you?
said, there we go. I trust Maggie. I'm watching the chat. One of these days, the chat's going to be as fast as what we need. Testing, maybe. Anything? It's weird not knowing if you can be heard. Yeah, good. That's a dumb monologue you're going to see. Oh, this is going to be a great stream. Hey, everybody, we're here. Oh, my gosh. You know what? Wes, punch it. Just do it. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Living Force. It is Monday night. It is some Star Wars time. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to chat about some pilots, about some prices, about some victory. First of all, we have Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope you can hear me, and I hope you can hear us throughout the rest of this show. We're gonna keep rolling with the punches. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so you were just your first intro spot for you it's a new
I
thing.
got moved up. I'm batting first in the lineup.
You're making way up in the leagues, man. Just like our own buddy who is running literally everything tonight, Wes Jenkins. How you holding in there, buddy?
I am stressed out. You can't just send me a file and think that it's all going to mesh well with the computer. This thing it's very intricate, but you know, we'll get through it. This is actually, the show is a hell of a lot better right now since Corey's not here. All right, take it away, Eric.
That's right. Well, so for those of you that may wonder, that was an odd intro. It was new. Yes, we are missing our Dr. Corey Helton, as we said last week. He's working the night shift and is hanging in the chat tonight. I did want to point out one very important thing at the top of the show. Jose called me out because I am running on my new PC tonight. I'm very happy. I'm very stoked. I built a computer. I did it.
So
finally,
awesome.
It is fast. It is quick. It is, however, not running this show. So any technical gaffes may be my fault, but I won't know I'm doing them because Wes is in control of everything, man.
That's right. So
this is the audition to see if Corey
P's
just doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this chat's already gonna be great. Well, everyone, this week in Star Wars news, there wasn't a ton of stuff, but we're gonna chat about a couple things here. First of all, a very belated happy birthday to friend of the show, friend of the community, friend of the universe, Kevin Scott had his birthday this week. So, Kevin, happy birthday, man. We love you. We hope you had a great day. I don't know if y'all saw on his Instagram and Twitter today, he got his Jackson figure. So I think that was like, how many years in the making, you know? So happy for him.
I hope that him and George Mann had a beer or something.
Oh, yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? I can't wait to have a beer with literally anyone. Second dose. What am I saying? My 2 weeks after my second dose is Wednesday. So
fully vaccinated.
I'm feeling good, baby.
Do you think he got his figure in and signed it to himself?
That'd be to Kevin. Love Kevin. To 11-year-old Kevin. We made it, baby. Love adult Kevin.
We did it. He just shakes his own hand.
God. Well, I hope he had a great time with it, because we also had a great time this week seeing a preview of some of his work over at the good old StarWars.com. They had a preview of his upcoming graphic novel, The Monster at Temple Peak, which is pretty rad. Do we have a little preview of that we can throw up? I don't know. I think I'm going out of order. Maybe throwing you off, Wes, and I apologize. I'm going out of order. What's the next in the order? What's the correct order?
We can we can find
the monster at Temple Peak.
Give me
Well, here's what I'll say while we're finding it. Is that they announced this week that the Monster at Temple Peak, the original graphic novel by Kevin Scott, starring Yrica, will be coming out this August of 2021. It's going to come out in 4 monthly installments, though. We weren't sure if it was going to be released all at once, but it will be coming out. There we go. Look at that. You're amazing at what you do, buddy. We got our first look at the art here. It's going to be released in 4 installments starting in August. So assuming they're probably going to be around $5 or $6, a little longer than your normal monthly comic. But check out some of this art we saw. This is Yrica, Monster Hunter, art by Rachel Stott. And
this is some good stuff right here.
Oh my goodness. Look at these monsters, these scary boys. I like them.
You could say that. Excellent.
I could. They're pretty cool looking, and I really like the vibe of this. It feels very 80s, doesn't it? Like kind of like 80s Saturday morning cartoons.
Look at her saber. Yeah. That's super cool.
Oh, that hilt is just
pink.
Yeah, I think it's pink, purple, pink. Yeah,
I think it's
pinkish, isn't it?
That's cool.
Yeah, I really dig it. And Ty also got her very own video on StarWars.com, one of those like character profiles that they've been doing with the High Republic. So if you're interested, head over to StarWars.com, check out more of this. Check out the Weekend Star Wars where we premiered the video, and of course the Star Wars YouTube channel has that as well. One last thing we wanted to share at the top of the episode here that I think I told you I was going to do first, and I apologize for going out of order, is today is the 2-year anniversary of our recording episode 0 of The Living Force. And in our Discord channel, I've just put up my setup that I use for the show. It's a 2-monitor setup, very happy with it. But I wanted to show you all what I used 2 years ago to record our first episode. Wes, throw that up. This is where it started.
I love it. I love your play school desk that you got there. That's like the kids eat here and the adults will eat in the dining room.
This is the laptop that was louder in the microphone than your voice.
Yeah, man. It was rough. It was running Windows 7 barely. It was a blue snowball mic in the middle of just an echoey dining room in actors housing in the middle of Alabama. Those headphones I have were held together, you can see, with black electrical tape. And
beautiful.
That was how we began. And now here we are, guys, with a weekly live stream show. So,
but, the Blue Yeti mic it's a staple. It's nothing to scoff at.
Oh no. But that's the snowball, man. That was pre-Yeti even. That was like, I got that in college for like a drunk dare or something. But anyway, that was a little, keeping my time up. I wanted to share with you all. You know what? No matter what your setup is, though, as long as you love Star Wars, you can talk about it. And sometimes people will listen and hang out with you for 2 years. So thank you all for being here since episode 0. Next thank you, of course, we want to give, though, is to our lovely Patreon community. Our show is supported by a ton of amazing patrons. And this week, we wanted to welcome a couple folks. We got Chirps, who joined as a monthly patron, Matt Young, who became a monthly patron, and Michael Annunziata, who became an annual patron, which we love, gives us support throughout the year, saves you a little bit of money. So thank you all for supporting Youtini and everything we do. We hope to see you, he segues, at the May the 4th Night of the Opera Watch event with our Inquisitorious patrons. We are going to hang out. We, of course, are going to watch that sweet, sweet Bad Batch premiere episode. I'm not going to lie to y'all and say I'm not going to wake up at 5 a.m. and watch it by myself first. But May 4th in the evening, I believe we're just about finalizing the start time. Should be around 7:30 Eastern. We're going to hang out and watch the Bad Batch. Guys, how stoked are you for both the Bad Batch and for this event to hang out with our patrons? We haven't done it in forever.
I haven't watched the Bad Batch since we watched it the first time when we had the event. So I'm really excited. It's great to hear the banter, because last time we did a watch along, nobody watched the show. So I think I think this time around we're gonna be paying attention a little bit, because
a smidge.
Yeah, that worries me, because I'm working, and so I think that the first time I'll get to watch it will be at this event. So I'm going to be the one shushing you from the back row.
Yeah,
of
well,
the
I
Opera
would
House.
definitely recommend, if I could, that before any Youtini Patreon watch event, you, dear patrons, try to watch the thing before you come in.
Yes.
But if it's your first time, we'll try to be as respectful as possible. But again, that'll be May the 4th. I can't wait to watch that and to also hope that they'll release some new Funkos and be, of course, very disappointed when they don't. But what I am not disappointed in, I'm killing these segues tonight, guys. I feel good. Is our patron of the week, Charles. Will you please lend your dulcet tones to our patron of the week, our very own Adam Dyson?
Yes, Adam Dyson is the patron of the week. And he says, my name is Adam, and I'm from Newcastle, Australia. I found Star Wars when I was about waist high. My mother, fed up with dealing with my school holiday-induced craziness, sat me down, made some popcorn, and threw on Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Or, as Adam probably said, Return of the Jedi. At the time, I'd never heard of a Star Wars, and quite frankly, as it wasn't Pokemon, I wasn't all that excited, and told her that. She ignored that and pressed play. When the dust settled, I didn't even know how to spell Pokemon anymore. I begged her to let me watch it again, and a third time before she carted me off to bed. I look back on this moment and still remember the profound effect it had on me. Anakin's sacrifice hit me hard and still does. Here was a man saving his son. Simple, really, and for a boy without a dad in his life, it was everything. To no one's surprise, my favorite Star Wars story is Anakin's story as a whole. Whether it's a film, comic, book, or a TV show, it all matters to me. One story, one smile. I found Youtini through another podcast. Corey was a guest, and his descriptions of the site, the show, and the vision hooked me line and sinker. I jumped across to the Living Force at the same time, completely forgetting the show Corey had guested on in the first place. It wasn't long before I became a patron and gave him all of my life savings. I have an important question, which will prove both insightful and thought-provoking. If Disney Plus greenlit a documentary series about Hayden Christensen's smile, should it be 10 episodes long or cut to 8? Personally, I'd prefer a multi-season format. Also, as it is Hayden's birthday today, I am making an executive decision, with the complete lack of power I have, to dedicate this episode of TLF to him. In all seriousness, though, this community has meant the world to me. It has been there for the highs and some incredible lows. Youtini was there to help pick me up, dust me off, and nudge me forward. Also, I love being a part of the team and maintaining a safe place, Discord, for others to come together and talk all things Hayden Christensen. So to everyone who calls Youtini home, except Timothy, he knows why, thank you, and may the force be with you always.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
That's great. Adam, we love you, man. And yes, for those of you that may not know, Adam is our now one of our Discord moderators, but really is kind of the driving force behind the Youtini Discord that has grown this community exponentially. Our of course, Hayden Christensen stan above all. I can't believe the patron of the week happened to fall on his birthday. Although I do blame Adam, your mortal enemy Timothy, and co-host of Conjure Book Club. Check them out on Saturdays for making that happen. But to his very important question, guys. If Hayden Christensen's smile was made into a Disney Plus documentary, 8 or 10, what do you think? I think you could separate it by tooth. You can separate it by mood. I don't know. There's so many opportunities here.
I think you have to go 8 episodes because you don't want to give too much away. You want people coming back for more, right? So after that 8th episode, there's like chomping at the bit. No pun intended. So that's a smile pun.
I don't care, man. Just bring back Hayden Christensen. I'm so stoked to see him back on the screen playing Anakin. Yeah, why not? Bring on a documentary about his smile. Bring on a documentary about his mullet. Bring it all on.
Yes. Yeah, I would also say 8. I think the 8 episode format is maybe the perfect amount of television for like any topic. Pretty much. I love the 8. You're right. 10 doesn't get a bit long in the tooth. I think you got to do 8 or you got to do a 13.
Well, the question is, does he floss?
Oh, he has to.
That's what
Anakin flosses. Vader does not. But yes, when the Kenobi series happens, I'm sure Adam and all of our resident Hayden fans are going to be so stoked because we'll also finally get new Hayden like production photos, like photos of Anakin Skywalker in live action for the first time since 2005. So can't wait. Adam, thank you for all you do, man, on this team and this community. Much love. Cannot wait to hear you guys keep dissecting everything that you do on Kanji Book Club every single week. And speaking of the good old Kanji Book Club, you might want to hang out there in the coming months because they do the books as they come out before our roundtables. And coming up, they're going to focus on the upcoming release, Throne Ascendancy Greater Good. This beautiful red boy next to me right over here. That is up for pre-order now on the Youtini new releases page. Check that out, April 27th. And as a reminder, as with all Youtini new releases, on the day the book is released, there will be a full spoiler light, I'll say, review on the website written. There will also be a video review on our YouTube channel. So be ready on that release day to check out all our coverage of Throne Ascendancy Greater Good, and be sure to get those pre-orders in through Youtini. Give us a little bit of a kickback if you feel so inclined. And while you're over there, you may as well pre-order every Star Wars book coming out this year, because come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Did it.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it.
It's just fun to see them come in the mail, guys.
All right. So moving on here, we're going to get into our Victory's Price Roundtable Part 2. Now, I'm going to put y'all, I guess mainly Wes, on the spot here, because there's something in the outline I didn't read. Cool. We're discontinuing some of our merch designs on our website by the end of the month. Do you know which ones those are? Or did Corey just put that in?
No idea.
All right, great. So what we're going to do, we're going to roll a sweet, sweet merch ad. And since Jose and Corey are both watching right now, by the time the ad is over, they'll have written in the chat which designs are leaving. And then we'll go over that before we get back into our roundtable. But check out this ad real quick. We'll be right back to talk more about Victory's Price. Oh, what a twist. What a twist in the chat. We have a new ad, apparently. This is great. This is the time to add new stuff on us. That's apparently not the ad that shows the designs that are leaving.
Oh.
What's that to say?
Well, let me pull up.
Let's see what we can do here.
Yeah.
We want you guys, this is the How the Sausage is Made episode. And I really, oh, Jose's in the Coda doc. I see him. I see you.
He's
checking on it.
Make this worth even
Who's to
looking
say?
at. Up and down this? No, sure can't.
Well, thrilling as this may be.
It's 7 files, Corey.
It's... All right. Well, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
If we find that out in the next little bit, we'll tell you guys which designs are going to be.
Go.
Oh. Hey. All right. There we go. So.
We're okay. So this is our first time finding out which ones are getting the axe and which ones are staying. And it looks like you losers are getting your shirts axed. But you know,
oh my gosh,
Matt should stay on there from what I say, but that's just me.
All right, so let's see here. We have for our audio friends. Here's a few that we're missing. We're gonna go through a couple. The I Am the Senate shirt is getting retired. The Conductor Matt shirt is getting retired. The Hello There shirt with Charles's gorgeous face is getting retired. Oh man, they just saw our Slack channel. The Expand Your Universe tees are getting retired. What else is getting retired? Oh, the man behind the keys, the West shirt is getting retired. Yeah, you were all cocky before.
Those 3 already. And
was getting retired. Childlike Wonder since 1977 is getting retired. What else we got? Oh, these 3 hoodies. God. Yeah, see, this is live reactions, folks. We love these as much as you do. A couple of our hoodies.
Hoodie.
The Mando hoodie, the From a Certain Point of View.
Oh no.
The Neurotransmitter Affection tee is getting retired. The Dark Legends tee is getting retired, and I think that's
the last one.
My goodness. Well, all right. So this is our last chance to get these tees. So head over. If you've been waiting on them, this is your sign that you've been waiting for to pick those up. Head over to youtini.com. Check out the merch. youtini.com/merch. I believe we'll get you there. Get some cool stuff. Now we'll stop shilling. If you're on the audio podcast, my gosh, I sure hope you followed all that as best I could. But now we'll get into the meat of what you wanted. Victory Spreads Roundtable Part 2. Charles, where did we leave off?
All right. So we are still talking about characters. Last time we talked about some big ones. We talked about Hera. We talked about Will. We talked about Nath. But it's time to talk about Kairos. All right.
Kairos!
I don't know. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Please answer all questions in that exact voice.
Okay.
So please don't.
Don't test me.
So Kairos, despite being one of my favorite additions to the Alphabet Squadron series, I'm sure y'all remember I have been Team Kairos since very early on. We may spend the least amount of time talking about her because we don't really understand what happened. At least I don't. Maybe y'all can help me out with that. To start off, I wanted to talk about this description of Kairos that came really nice and early in the book. It was on page 15. Maybe it's my favorite description of her ever. It reads, "She was dressed in a cloak in loose gray cloth that might have been sewn from stained sheets, and her face was a patchwork of chitinous plates, some a deep violet, others a lighter mauve, marbled with white veins, some chipped and discolored, others polished and bright. Deep-set eyes peered out from that map of a splintered world, gazing into the bedlam ahead." Man, that still gives me chills.
Yeah, man.
So that's Kairos. And while every pilot in Alphabet Squadron evolved emotionally throughout this trilogy, Kairos did so physically. And that was kind of an outward show of what was changing with her inwardly. So what did you make of Kairos's ever-changing appearance, and how did it inform you as to her character and what her character was going through?
Dude, Kairos, what an interesting character. Just to say it at the beginning, right? Like, what a character, unlike anything we've seen in Star Wars before, or will probably see for a while, I'd say. Like, Freed clearly, I feel, had so much love for this character and her journey. And I think Kairos, to me, basically embodies what you said, in that she defines evolution to the point of a person that is constantly changing, like you said, both outwardly and inwardly. And I found it really interesting in this book to discover that she was evolving because she had become contaminated in a way, or she felt like she was unworthy, and she was so afraid, we find out rightly so, that she would be shunned or attacked by her own people, and she was trying to fix herself. And what she ended up becoming wasn't quite, I think, what she had envisioned, but was still something wholly new. And I think that's maybe, I mean, if that's not the best metaphor for this trilogy for all the characters, I don't know what is.
Right, and her species was never defined, right? Like, there's not an actual word for it. And it was, like you said, she had a basically like a metamorphosis from the first book all the way to the end. But she didn't say much of anything in the first book, right? She may have said a couple words wasn't it to Will? When they were around, when like they were in that like circle or that camp. And
the campfire scene. And then like when Quell was gonna get hurt, or like she was gonna try to kill her or something. Maybe that was Shadowfall. I don't know. Very soft spoken in the first books.
So yeah, I mean, if somebody would have told me that this was in Legends, I'd have believed it. But
yes.
So just her outward appearance, I was hoping she was a Tusken Raider, right? But we don't know if she was or she wasn't. I mean, anybody can be a Tusken Raider from what I've read. But she's just a mystery. I mean, since we don't know exactly what her species is, it leads up to interpretation. It leads up to our own imaginations to let us figure out what she is. And then if you listen to the audiobook, you already have part of her voice mapped out for you. So that's something that's a plus for the audiobook listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And now there's another quote that came on page 181, and it says, "Kairos still looked like she could murder an army, but she also looked ready to burst into tears." And we learned later.
I feel that on a Monday. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, we later learned why Kairos may have been ready to burst into tears, and y'all have already kind of been talking about it a little bit, but we finally got her whole backstory. And on page 248, Kairos kind of reveals more of her past, and she says this. She says, among my people, I was an emissary. My responsibility was to mediate between the solid world and the world of stars. I spoke for us to invisible beings of air. The Empire, it was not invisible, but it was from the world of stars. It called me shaman, but I do not know what that word means. I went to the outpost. We knew of the Empire, but I did not understand. It was my responsibility to mediate, but the Empire did not want this. They took me. I know, Quell said after a while. They took you to a camp. They experimented on you because you were an unknown species. You escaped together, you and Aiden and ITO. So now we know more of that story. And while Kairos may not know what a shaman is, it's, essentially a priest or priestess who's using magic for all kinds of different things. So Kairos was essentially a priestess, a person of peace. But after experimentation by the Empire became the harbinger of death that we first met in Alphabet Squadron. So what are your thoughts on her past, knowing what we have known about her?
It's interesting that a being who is such a professed, peace lover, essentially, or like a communicator, right? She was the person that was the bridge, was met as essentially almost a silent being that was only about war. And it's like how she became so the complete opposite to begin with and was always trying to struggle to fight there. I thought is very interesting. Andrew Bell in our chat is telling us to look up the meaning of the word Kairos. So I'm gonna do that right now. Kairos is a propitious moment for decision or action. The concept of Kairos is the right time or opportunity for something. Which that's interesting too.
Meaning the right, critical, or opportune moment. Interesting Greek word.
Yeah. And knowing her past now, that's interesting because, was she always just looking for the right moment to try to find her way back, to try to redefine herself, to become what she was? Because it sounds like many species who the Empire corrupted and colonized and took over, was living a pretty decent life, was liking her purpose, was serving her people. And then the Empire came in, ruined it, fundamentally changed her. And then she formed these bonds that she thought, could maybe give her a new sense of purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like that.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Empire came in and tainted everything that her, like her tribe or her family was working towards. So they had a journey, they had a path that they were trying to get to, like a life path. But then the Empire comes in and basically it sounds to me like they experimented on like what I would think we would do with an alien. And, like if we would try to get our hands on them and then dissect them and try to understand them in ways that we know. But
Wes, have you not seen Mars Attacks? That does not go well for us.
We not talk about Mars Attack. That's all I'm going to think about now. The rest of that. Rock.
It's true, though. I mean, it is. I do like to, and I think some people may find this frustrating with Kairos, is that it is not, even though we get her backstory, it's still not super specific to a lot of it. Like we do get a lot of info, but as far as like a species name, we don't even get. All these things are still so kind of abstract.
We'll never know if we see another one.
Yeah,
we wouldn't know based on the description because it wouldn't sound like Kairos. We wouldn't know based on a species name because we never learned that. We will go the rest of Star Wars and we'll never know.
Yeah, and how dare us go through Star Wars and assume that we would know every species as a reader or as a narrator even. Right. I think that's interesting too. Like it makes the galaxy even bigger to get all of this backstory about a species and still kind of know nothing.
So the plates that she had, fastened, glued, they were part of her body. Was that from, y'all think that was from like her upbringing, or was that always with her, or is that something that had to be put on her from the experimentation from the Empire?
So I don't have a quote here saved, but what I do know is that she at one point says that they literally ripped. Oh, wait, I lied. I do have the quote.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So let me just read this. Let me just read this, and it may help answer that question. She had not been named Kairos when she'd been young, nor when she had become the emissary of her people. She had not been named Kairos in the camp when they had made her less than she was, when they'd ripped away her skin to see what was underneath.
Oh,
She'd named
Jesus.
herself Kairos only after being given life by Aiden, who had acted with purity of intent, but given her no choice in the matter. Kairos was the name of the creature who cocooned herself and sought to heal. Kairos was the name of the creature bound by blood and spirit and horror to Aiden and ITO, and who waged war against the Empire while her soul mended. So maybe that's what's underneath. Maybe that's how she was healing, but I don't think the appearance with the plates was her normal species.
Okay. I mean, that kind of clears it up.
Yeah. My real name is Susan.
Oh my God.
I am now
Okay.
Kairos, but I was Susan Smith. That's it.
Okay. Well,
I lived in the suburbs.
I'm sorry to whoever's actually named Susan Smith that's listening to this.
I had a long
But
day
no,
to
took me
work.
from a They took me from a Trader Joe's.
Oh my God.
See what happens, Corey, when you let us just run around like idiots. All right, Charles.
Okay. Trying to get us back on track here. The rest of the quote that I was just reading actually says this. Then had come Cerberon. Again, Aiden had given her no choice. Out of love, he had called the surgeons of the New Republic to strip away her suit, her cocoon, her last protection against the world that was not her world. Aiden had done this out of love, and ITO too, but their love was not the love of her people. She had woken no longer truly Kairos, no longer anything, remade in body and incomplete in essence, whole in flesh but wrong in spirit. She could not accept the disgrace of her people knowing what had become of her. So it's kind of cool because the person that we consider Kairos, she didn't even consider herself Kairos through a lot of this story that we read ever since the events from Shadowfall, at least. And I want to get your thoughts on Kairos knowing that she would not be welcomed back by her people, that because of what others had done to her, and not just the Empire, but Aiden and ITO, when they thought they were doing something to help her, because of what she'd become, she knew she could never go back.
That's heavy, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like why they wouldn't accept her back after being tortured like that. Almost like
are there, I don't know, this may be a stretch, but there could be like the darker parallels with, like cult-ish type people that like assume that you need to be untainted or the world makes. Yeah, Chass, or like even in our, in our world, there are definitely those sects of people that say if you leave, you're unclean, you are tainted by the awfulness, the sin of the world. Like, I think it's rooted in kind of deep prejudice for anything unknown, perhaps, and anything outside their world. I mean, they see that the only thing to come into their world and tainted is the Empire, which destroys. So, maybe their belief system is so rigid that they're unable to welcome back a daughter like that. And it really, it hurt to read, because you could tell that even though she knew it was coming, that point when they do literally attack them on the planet, like how crushing to have every doubt, every fear confirmed.
Yeah.
Like just had to be heart-wrenching when you've worked so hard to, literally recreate yourself molecularly to become accepted and to go back home, and you just can't.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, man.
Yeah.
It is. Guys, Kairos is a bummer.
I know.
I'll say it.
I know. Well, one interesting thing about all of that, I think, came on page 253 when Kairos implies that since Aiden and ITO died more or less protecting Quell, kind of, she kind of took her blood bond with Aiden and ITO and kind of just like transitioned it to Quell, almost like if, I don't know, when Han died, spoiler alert, like Chewie just, moved his life debt to whoever, which, I mean, I guess he kind of did, but
yeah,
regardless, what do you think of the bond between Kairos and Quell? Because Kairos made comments they made it seem like she both loved and hated Quell at the same time. Like she called her sister and she called her traitor. It was very odd, their relationship.
Good. That's like everyone with Quell, isn't it? I think every character is like, I love her. Maybe she'll die though. Like for the entire series. And it's also interesting because we are the only people that know that Quell, like, kind of killed Aiden and ITO. Like, I mean, that chapter in Shadowfall where all that happens is still like was one of the most revered chapters in the last few years of Star Wars literature because of how intense it was. But she's the only one that really lives with that story. So that's always, I have found an interesting lens over which Kairos and Quell's relationship lives, at least in my mind.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what happened with Kairos in the end. Because I still don't really know. She just kind of leaves to be something else. Like, literally all of the plates that have been covering her body for this, entire amount of time that we've known what she looks like underneath her suit, they just kind of start falling away, and then she kind of just skips off into the sunset on Coruscant. So
yeah, legit.
I mean, what do you guys think she's up to now? I'm curious. What became of Kairos after the events of Victory's Price in your mind? This is obviously not real. We're just making this up. But what do you think she's up to now?
Dude.
Well, and her plates are falling, so she's obviously healing.
Right.
She's healing physically, and she's been healing. She was speaking with Quell, right? She was speaking with Quell, and she was healing mentally a little bit. But sounds to me like she's going to be a yoga teacher somewhere on level 1313.
Yes. My God, that'd be a Twisted Studio. There's definitely something spiritual in there. Cad Ben made a cool point in our chat. He said that she sounded kind of like liquid at the end in a way. So like seeing a visual representation would be amazing. I think, we said before on the show, a lot of the visual representations of modern literature stuff has been very helpful, like with the High Republic concept art, Alphabet Squadron, they all got their character portraits for the first book. That was super helpful. I'd love to see what she looks like now, but I do think there may be something spiritual. Like, is she whatever the civilian version of taking the brash vow is, where she's just kind of off on her own? Like, she's trying to get in touch with the universe. Is she trying, like, does she have the power to tap into the Force to like hear the like the wills or like anything like that? I feel like it's something in that arena. I don't think she ever touches a weapon again. I don't think she ever joins a group like that again. I think she's a solo monk that kind of just trying to listen to the song of the universe, if you will, to borrow Avar Chris's terminology. I think that's what she's up to.
Well, my answer is on the complete other end of the spectrum from yours, Eric, because I think she's opened a Euro stand somewhere out there on Coruscant, and she would call it, she would mispronounce it though. It'd be Gyros by Kairos. And it would be a real hit. So
and it's right next to Dex's diner. He goes, Kairos, buddy.
And just to say, Charles, I didn't even see 1313 on your answer there, but I used it and I apologize. I ruined a quarter
of course
of
she
your
goes to level 1313. It's the weirdest place on Coruscant.
Level 1313 is for all the stuff that apparently happens on there in Legend and Canon, is the largest level of Coruscant by miles.
All right, let's play a quick game to round out everything with Kairos.
I love games.
I want you guys, this is one multiple choice question. It's Charles' stupid game.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell me which of the following sentences was not said by Kairos throughout the course of this trilogy. Which one was not said by her, okay?
All right. Okay.
Is it choice A, open the body's window and the soul grows cold?
Sounds
this is
definitely
gonna be really
Kairos.
hard. Yep.
Is it B, a lesser poison is not a cure? Is it C,
not enough words in that one?
The stain of evil cannot be cleaned?
Sounds right. Yeah.
Or is it
joke?
D, is a turtle without a shell even a turtle at all?
Okay,
Which
is it
one was
turtle
not
without
said
a shell,
by
even a
Kairos?
Because now I'm like,
turtle?
are there turtles in Star Wars?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's the only
that
one
jumps
I
Are
would
there
out.
think
space
is that
turtles?
one. Is the turtle one
So
because I don't know
your
what
answer is D. The joke is on you. None of these were said by Kairos, but the fact that you even had to think
what?
about that tells us just how
None
ridiculous
of them?
she is. Not a single one. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of Charles' stupid game. Just
Open
make
the-
something up crazy, and people
Wow.
will think Kairos said it. 'Cause
Open
that's
the
Kairos.
body's window and the soul grows cold.
Yeah, I thought about that
That's
one on
awesome.
a post 28 because I was in a mood.
That's
Okay.
really good.
That's just what comes to you now as you're sitting in the hospital being like, so this is what I'm doing for the next 30 years. This is it.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's it for Kairos, y'all. We're going to move
Wow.
on to someone who maybe we understand a little bit more, but maybe not. And that's Chass and Chadic. Okay, so despite everything that we just said about Kairos, somehow Chass is probably still the wild card out of this whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And on page 10, Nath says about Chass, something was wrong with the girl, something new, different from the rat's nest of uncontested self-loathing, bitter fury, and suicidal impulses she lived in when they'd first met. And then on page 231, Quell says about Chass, Chadic too seemed different. Where she'd always been volatile, now she seemed to oscillate between furious and withdrawn, with nothing in between. She was less than the person Quell remembered. And so while Chass doesn't really clue her squad mates in on exactly what happened to her, we know that she's actually haunted by the voice of the leader of the cult that she joined in Shadowfall, and that was Litige. My question for you is this. Do you think Chass was actually hearing Litige's voice in her head as if she was having like genuine hallucinations, or is she pretending it's Litige to keep from having to confront the truths that she already knows about herself?
I'm gonna go with the second one, and only because in Shadowfall, the second one, as in she's trying to keep from having to confront the truths. It's almost like kind of like me. It's like I always have a podcast on, or I'm always listening to something on my phone because I don't want to be alone with my thoughts.
Yup. Hear that?
Open the window and the soul grows cold, baby.
Jose, that's the next shirt.
But when I was reading Shadowfall, I didn't really see Chass as buying into the cult like she is, like Alexander Freed is trying to show in the third book, as her as being a devout member and always like going back to these teachings, always hear Litige's messages in her head. I thought she was just there for a quick spur, see what it was like, killed somebody, and then left. Like that's, I didn't see her actually buying into the cult and their teachings. But I must have read it fast. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, because I will say my gut says the first option, which makes it fun. Because I also think that's how Chass thought she was experiencing it in Shadowfall as well. And I think that the choice that Freed makes to give her these auditory hallucinations in a way kind of flips that on its head, that she's like, oh, I'm fine. And then, oh my God, wait, did I miss being in a cult? Did I miss having that sense of belonging or whatever it was? Because Chass, again, I mean, Kairos is the most physically evolved character throughout the trilogy, I think it's safe to say. Because of, the chitinous plates, and maybe she's a ghost monster now. Maybe she's a liquid. Who knows? Like, that's a lot. But I would say I think Chass is the most emotionally evolved from all three books, from how different she is. And in this one, I do think that she is hearing that voice. I don't think she wants to go back, but oh my God, do I think she's confused about what she wants after knowing it for so long. And skipping way ahead to the end of the book, I know we'll talk about more of this later. I was so happy to see her and Yrica together because I felt like that was a very natural, peaceful ending. Like the thing she was trying to deny was connection throughout these three books. And the cult getting in was maybe an unhealthy tease of that. And then I'm glad the ending was her getting the healthy dose of that, which is the connection she had tried to deny the most, which was her and Quell.
Yeah. Well, you bring up, on page 82, I think is kind of the first time where we really see Chass lay out what her internal struggle is. And it really seemed to revolve around not feeling wanted in whatever group that she was in, because Letitia's voice in her head tells her that, she's wanted by the cult, but that the Republic is never truly going to want her. And she actually says, they will always mock you, Maya Halleck, which, if you remember back, is what Letitia called Chass. You may as well come home, is what she says. So where does that struggle come from? Where does Chass's fear of not being accepted stem from?
Ooh, I mean, upbringing, right? She grew up in a cult where I would assume, at least the way she describes it, is that acceptance is just natural. Like, you don't question because you're in the cult, you're accepted, period. You don't have to question whether you have to prove yourself or do anything like that. And then when she left, all of that immediately got lost. It all drifted away, and you kind of take it for granted. I think the rest of her life, unknowingly to her, maybe has been trying to get that back. Aaron Thompson in our chat puts out a good point. Says, I thought when she got caught being part of that cult, she got a little protective and artificially bought into it so she wouldn't look silly, which is also interesting because she is so much about appearances, right?
Yeah.
Chass is a very different person with everyone she meets. And I think that this book really showed that she isn't quite sure who she is when she's by herself with her own thoughts, like you were saying, Wes.
No. Like, one thing that stood out to me was Freed had he put a lot of work, a lot of emphasis into that one scene where when they had the explosion, I think on the Star Destroyer that was turned into a Republic Star Destroyer, I guess.
Love that, by the way.
Yeah.
Love that they're flying a freaking Star Destroyer around the whole time.
And then she's crawling through the tunnels. She's trying to help. She's trying to help out. She's trying to find a air vent or an airlock. She's trying to get to a point, like a panel or something. But then it's like the crisis averted while she's en route to fix something, and she doesn't want people to know that she was doing something that was unselfish, I guess. That wasn't pointed just at her. And I was like, they put a lot of emphasis on that, and she was trying to push that feeling away that she wasn't trying to help, but she really was. That I thought about that throughout the book, and I was like, that there was that one instance where she was she wasn't just flying and listening to music and killing and shooting squadrons down. She was actually trying to do something unselfish, and she wasn't rewarded for it. And I'm sure that kind of hurt throughout the end of the book.
Not only was she not rewarded for it, but if you recall what happened when she kind of found her way out, I believe that was when she happened upon the grounds crew who had gone through her ship and had found all of the recordings of the cult, and they were making fun of her and all this stuff. So, that probably reinforced in her what I'm not accepted, number one, and number two, like, why should I be trying to help these people? Because what she was doing would have saved the grounds crew, would have potentially would have saved everyone on the ship. So she stuck her neck out, and that's immediately the response that she got. Is she was singled out and she was ridiculed,
which is obviously tough for anyone, but also for her. I think she realizes that, if no one depends on me, I can't let anyone down. So that's also a nice defense mechanism. And then to add on that, the consequences of that moment, like, why in the world would she ever do that again? Like, if you're not rewarded, but also doubly ridiculed, and you might also let them down the next time, like, of course she's terrified of it.
Yeah.
It's a rough go.
It is a rough go. And one thing that never came to a whole bunch of fruition, but y'all tell me if you remember this. In the first book, I felt like there was a bigger deal made out of Chass's species, which, again, she's Thelan.
Yeah.
Right? And there aren't many of those that we know in the Star Wars universe. We know Latarazi is like the big other Thelan, I feel like, that we know of. But in the first book, there were comments, about, or they seemed to sort of imply that her species was looked down upon as a whole. And I didn't feel like we really got more about that as the trilogy went on, but that's kind of also in the background of all of this.
Yeah, it's a good point. I can't even remember them ever mentioning it in this one, which it could be, I guess, an authorial choice of deciding maybe the narrative goes a different way. But yeah, interesting. I honestly, I had forgotten about it completely until you just mentioned it. So I guess that proves your point.
Yeah.
The only Thelans that I kind of remember just seeing on screen were in Jabba's palace, right? Wasn't there a Thelan there? Yeah.
Yep.
I think there was. Yeah. So on page 269, there's this comment from Chass. It says, deep within her mind, notions like sediment at the bottom of an ocean drifted up from where they'd been lost months before. They whispered in a voice not Letitia's, don't forget, until the last battle is over, there's always your backup plan. And now later on page 393, Chass says to herself, or thinks to herself rather, this was the last battle. She could be Jyn Erso today, or she could let the nightmares come true. And Chass felt like she either had to die as a hero in battle or as a loner after the war. And she struggled with this contemplation of suicide as a possibility for herself through a lot of these novels. And I'm curious, why the ultimatum with her? Why do you think she saw this as either I have to be a martyr or I will, be so down in the dumps that I just end my own life? Like there's no other future for me other than those two things. Where did that come from?
Oh, God.
I know.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
This is a heavy book, man.
I know.
I definitely can see a similarity in that. But we'll talk about that after we talk some serious, because it's not.
Yeah. I guess so in the serious part of it,
Sure.
I think honestly, a lot of it is, I mean, her idolization of the Rogue One crew. She talks about that from the beginning. They all died as heroes. I think having the people you look up to the most be people who literally died for what they believed in sets a precedent of like, if I can't live up to that, how am I worthy? What do I do that is worthwhile if I can't be a hero, if I can't be heroic? Especially because she's kind of turned her back on being a cult member. She's turned her back on a bunch of other things. And I mean, this goes to the psychology probably of things we learn when we're young. When you're a kid, your whole life view is kind of sculpted, at least started, and you're given options. Like, I can be a firefighter, I can be a teacher, or what, like, you have a set of rules, which is why, we talk about representation being so important, because, like, it's still hard for people in certain communities, people of color, people of certain gender identities. They don't see themselves in certain roles, so they never have the idea they can attain certain heights because it's not presented. And maybe in this case, Chass was never presented with other options. You're a cult member, or you're a Rogue One pilot that dies, or you're worthless. And she already left the cult, and she left a second cult. So that's not it. And if she doesn't die as Rogue One, that's not it. So, she didn't know.
Maybe she didn't think past the war. Like, that was it. Like, once you get to the war,
great point.
That's life. That's your life right there. If you make it out alive as a hero, I mean, better to you. More better. That's great.
Yeah.
But
that's what I talk about with soldiers of all types, right? Of all wars, like, huge part of PTSD is thinking you're still there, and like you get home.
This is Lieutenant Dan. This is Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. 100%. He was gonna die in the war, just like his dad, just like his grandpa, just like his uncle before him. And if he didn't die on the battlefield, what good is he? So that's the struggle that he had to have in Forrest Gump, which the struggle that Chass is gonna have to have in Alphabet Squadron. Gump.
How come you don't got no legs, Chester Chadic?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get around to where Chass ended up, which you've already talked about, Eric. We'll come back around to that when we're kind of at the end of this, but I kind of want to leave Chass there for right now because she really pulled a 180 at the end. I mean, we really saw her do something that at least I didn't expect. So we'll talk about that more. I want to talk about her partner now, though. Her partner that we know she had at the end of the novel, Yrica Quell, the original commander of Alphabet Squadron. Now, remember, when we left Quell at the end of Shadowfall, she had just deserted the New Republic to return to Shadowing. And in this novel, we see that she was planning to be a spy for the New Republic all along, just attempting to stop Shadowing from the inside. Sure, Quell, we never doubted you. And I say that jokingly, but in all seriousness, let's think about this. Quell initially joined the Empire to learn how to fly, to learn to be a pilot, but she planned to defect to the rebellion afterwards. But then she didn't, and instead became a tool for one of the Empire's most dangerous fighter wings. But then someone told her to leave, so she did, and actually did join the New Republic. But then she left to go back to Shadowing, but she was only pretending to go back to Shadowing. And then she went back to the New Republic, and she wasn't pretending that time. Was anyone else
Just the
dizzy?
way she planned it.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. We're reminded of just how circuitous Quell's journey was by a quote on page 102. And it says, "She rode helplessness like a raft on dark water, unsure of where she would land and carried ever forward." And first of all, that needs to be a nominee for the 2021 Youtini's Quote of the Year. But second of all, it does feel like Quell has been adrift through a lot of this trilogy. And it's been hard to understand her motives, even when Freed lets us spend time inside her head. Like, how is it possible? Even when you follow her thought process, it's hard to follow.
Yeah. Like in the first book, she talks about how she always was going to defect and join or just leave the Empire, but she just never got around to it. How do you never get around to something that, I mean, I can totally understand. It's just like, it's like going to a day job, just going through the motions and finally you're so intertwined and you're so deep within it and you're so dead with debt and mortgage that you have to stay where you're at.
Right.
It's like
hypothetically.
I mean, I'm not talking about anybody or anything.
No.
Nothing personal.
But it's not like we're talking about a small house project. Like, yeah, everyone has accidentally put a hole in the wall and you spackle it and you just haven't gotten around to painting it again so it matches the rest of the wall.
Whoa,
But
he's gonna come at me like that, Charles. My God.
You're not too busy to paint the wall because you're committing genocide. Like, it's it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I was really glad that Freed didn't let us wallow in the is she good, is she bad thing for too long in this book. I was really glad that, because I think that could have gotten tiresome and was, I think we all assume she's the protagonist of the book.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of using the word protagonist, I think, is actually really hard with these characters.
Fair. She's one of the protagonists, I'll say.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. And
okay.
I always assumed she was going to spy. And I did like the idea that he said, okay, yep, this whole time from like early chapters, she was already inner monologue wise, telling us as readers that this is what she was doing. I definitely think it was in a roundabout way throughout the whole book. Don't get me wrong. Like, oh my goodness, this trilogy, she went back and forth. But I think that really makes her a fascinating character that I think is the short end of the stick in a lot of Alphabet Squadron conversations. Like, not a lot of people have Yrica as their favorite, because it's kind of like in a really big comedy. She's the straight man. She is the person in the middle where all the cool, interesting people have to like circle around and they get to do the fun stuff. Like we have the really fun flyer and then the pirate guy and then the crazy cult lady and then like the cocoon woman. And then it's like, actually, without Yrica, it doesn't really work. And I really like that we had someone that can be a New Republic hero that was also like, honestly, I'm real confused. This conflict is really hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to kill my friends, but I don't want to kill my old friends. Like, it seemed really tough.
That was the huge conflict that I saw as well, because she befriended these people from the New Republic, and then she also had these relationships with people from the Empire that she got to know as friends. So, I mean, and then going back and rekindling those friendships in the third book, like I bet that had to hurt, and it had to wane on her head like through the rest of the fight, and even trying to sabotage the Star Destroyer or the transport they were on. It's like, am I going to hurt these people that I've come to respect, not just as friends, but as colleagues as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how Quell kind of managed to do what she did in this book, how she managed to really ultimately work for the New Republic and bring about the end of the Empire.
I love
And
that, but Andrew Bell told me to interrupt you. So I did
oh,
that,
go
Andrew.
ahead.
You
Go
see
ahead.
me. I got this shirt. Charlie's mom got it for me at Droid Depot at Galaxy's Edge.
I was gonna say, show me that damn shirt because I was gonna ask you about it. That thing is rad,
It is nice.
dude.
It's
That
literally
is a good-looking shirt.
on the ground at Disney World. Her mom is a pass holder, went, bought it at Droid Depot, and shipped it to us. So,
Beautiful.
Charles, I'm sorry
It
for the
is
interruption.
nice.
Andrew
It's
said I
okay.
had to do it. I
We
am
gotta
beholden
listen
to
to
the
him.
chat.
So on page 57, Quell says this. In Soran, she'd come to understand that there was nothing for her in the New Republic, that regardless of whether her squadron forgave her, they likely wouldn't, she would be tried and punished for her crimes. Her life would end, perhaps deservedly so, but submitting to her guilt served no one when there was work yet to do. Karen Aiden had advised her to move forward past her guilt and do what good she could for the galaxy. That remained her task. And then on page 232, we get this quote. Quell made sure to show no reaction, though the old guilt and self-loathing beaded on her like sweat. She remembered the eye of the tower on the red planetoid and the despair she'd felt at the knowledge that nothing would ever make her actions right. But she'd moved past it. She would never forgive herself, but she would move forward. So a couple of times there we get that terminology, move forward, those two words, move forward. And these were some of Aiden's final words to Quell before he died. And they really became her rally cry in this novel, didn't they?
They really did. And Cad Ben and Andrew both make good points in the chat right now. Cad Ben actually says Yrica was his favorite with Kairos, which is really great. It says, I thought it so compelling to have a hero with such fluid morals. Usually they're so strongly committed to a side or path. Also why he loves Afra. And I think that's a great point because a lot of times they say, you know, heroes and villains really represent the times in which they are written, right? Like you can look back in time, like when zombie movies get really big, when alien invasions get really big, are all related to the times in which they're written. What's going on in the world? What is the populace concerned with, right? And Alphabet Squadron is so interesting with Yrica because of what you're saying, Charles, so specifically, I find, because we're living at a time right now where I think a lot of people are dealing with different kinds of trauma, and it's finally being able to be talked about in the public space. Because I think a lot of big events have happened to a lot of people lately that maybe weren't talked about in years past. Maybe were kind of thought about in different ways. And now a lot of people are realizing that they have to live with trauma and every day do have to find ways to move forward, to say, maybe I can't get over this thing today, or maybe I can't forgive myself for this thing I did when I was younger, but I do have to move forward. And maybe that means I'm not the, Legends era Luke Skywalker who is just perfect and angelic and has every power and I can do everything I want. Maybe I'm an Yrica who stumbles and who falls in with the wrong people now and then, but has to just put one step in front of the other, which is why I think that Shadowfall chapter was so hard for all of us and so important because she literally just went step, step, step. And in this novel, she's like, if I can get one person to trust me, I can move forward. I can get a second person to trust me, I can move forward. I think made her really a hero for the times, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got.
I really like that. Actually, I like that a lot. Wes, what do you think about her just willing herself forward, regardless of all these things that she's experienced?
That's hard to kind of define. Willing yourself forward, like, is she just supposed to turn herself into the Empire and say, hey, actually, guys, I was with the New Republic and I was shooting down some of our fellow comrades here? Or was she
Daisy?
Yeah. Or was she just trying she need to try to leave the Empire like immediately and try to escape? But I think her trying to move forward is trying to take strategic steps as to not get herself killed and to not ultimately not ultimately tell everybody where the New Republic was, especially with those transmissions she was sending out. That was something special.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who is it? Is it Will? Who's in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that puts the bodies in the barrels and throws them over the side of the ship? You know what I'm talking about? Is that in the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
No.
I remember it vaguely. Yeah.
Anyway, Pirates of the Caribbean also on Disney Plus where there's Star Wars. See, it all comes back.
No, I like what you're saying though, Wes, where she was having to make all these decisions and having to navigate everything that she'd done in the past. I mean, she really had spun herself a web of lies.
Yeah.
And the fact that she managed to navigate through that really successfully, ultimately,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Whether or not you agree with, all the things that she did to spin that web, I mean, it's impressive what she accomplished in the end.
And did she have that plan going into it, or is this just put
I don't
together?
think so.
Yeah, put together step by step.
She was floating on the raft of hopelessness, remember?
Yeah,
That's right.
I thought that's a quote you made up too, just like you did with the Kairos quotes.
Man, Floating on the Raft of Hopelessness is definitely an album that I listened to when I was 16.
For sure.
That's why Corey's not here tonight. He's floating on the raft of hopelessness.
Also known as Night Shift Pediatrics.
Yes. Well, on page 189, Keize is thinking about Quell, and he says it wasn't time for Chadawa's destruction that he craved most. The planet's fate, unfortunate as it might be for locals, was insignificant in the grand scope of his concerns. Rather, he needed time for Quell to return with the secrets of the Emperor's messenger. Time for Quell to realize that it wasn't loyalty to the New Republic or loyalty to the Empire that she had to choose from, but loyalty to principle, to her truest self. And I think that Quell seems to answer the question that I think that puts forth of who is Quell's truest self on page 302. And it's when she had her imagined therapy session with ITO. Y'all remember this scene? Remember, ITO's gone.
Yeah.
And all she wants is to have ITO back to talk to about, all of her problems, think through everything that's happened to her, to come to a solution, because ITO always helped her to do that. Since he's gone, she went through this fake therapy session in her own head, imagining what ITO would say to her. And ITO ends up saying what I think was the most important quote: when you accepted that you were worthy of existence, worthy of moving forward as you decided you would, you could no longer deny your former comrades the same worth and dignity. And on the following page, ITO asks Quell, what is it that you want? And she says, I want to save lives. And ITO says, then start there and concern yourself with the next question once it comes. So who is Quell's truest self? What are her priorities? What are her principles that Keize says that she has to choose between?
I think that sentence is the actual thing. She wants to save lives, and her struggle is that whoever's asking for her blind loyalty requires that she takes lives from someone else.
Wow.
And I think that seems like, isn't that the struggle with what I assume? I have no experience with this of my own, but isn't that every military or similar career struggle? Like, you want to help, but these things that are required from time to time are so hard that there's got to be a way not to do it. Andrew also makes a great point in the chat here, who absolutely loved this scene. And he said, isn't that the purpose of therapy, to be able to eventually self-therapize? And I think that's really interesting, because who would have thought our Star Wars hero is a person that just wishes they could talk to their therapist? And what a statement for that to make, and it doesn't diminish her strength. It just shows that, how much that connection can help. And I think that her nature is to be helpful. I think her nature is, to be someone that could just be flying a ship around and didn't have to worry about if it was killing anyone, And I think that who we see at the end of the book is very much who she is and who she wants to be and who she eventually gets to become. Mm-hmm. But I don't think she could have become that without the help of ITO, without those therapy sessions, without those decompressions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think of her almost as a very effective tool that could be wielded by a lot of different forces early on, you know, in this trilogy. And she came to understand her own effect and came to, you know, control herself essentially. And that made her actually quite powerful by the end of this book.
It's like we had that shirt that got taken down very quickly. Our Padme shirt that lived for an hour, where the queen saves herself, right? Like, I think that's one of the amazing things about a lot of Star Wars women is that there are all these forces that, again, inspired by a lot of real world events and powers that would want to control them or use them. And it's the realization of, I control my destiny. I control my steps forward, my steps back, my steps to the side, no matter what that is. And that self-realization kind of opens up this whole other layer of power that can be wielded in any way you see fit. In Quell's case, to be the strongest force for good, as she defines it, not as anyone else defines for her.
Right. Well, even though Quell seems to evolve into the best version of herself that we've ever seen in this novel, it's hard to get past how incredibly dark her past is. And on page 437, Hera says this: I like Quell. I believe she's changed, but her victims can't speak up because their civilization died with their planet, and I can't ignore that. And then on page 440, Hera tells Quell that not only is she being set free, this is, you know, much later after the New Republic decides to free Quell from her imprisonment, but that she's also going to get a medal. That's right. She's going to get a medal for everything she's done. And Quell does not really respond well to that. She says, no consequences at all. That's what it ends in. And then Hera says, you faced your share of consequences. To which Quell responds, I certainly don't deserve a medal. You know that. And Hera responds, what you deserve is a question for philosophers. If you're looking for unfailing judgment from a one-year-old government, you're going to the wrong place. Which is also up for the 2021 Youtini Quote of the Year.
Yeah, also, I had to point out in our Slack channels, Andrew just tagged you in the Youtini's nomination form. He wants you to put some of these in there.
Nice. Yes, I will. I'm happy to. But, you know, those quotes, I think, despite how incredibly dark Quell's past is, with everything that she accomplished by the end of this trilogy, yes or no, do you think Quell was redeemed? And keep in mind, we're going to talk about what redemption is and all that stuff in overarching questions. I just want to know, based on your definition, do you think she was redeemed by the end of this trilogy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
What about you, Charles? What do you think?
I would agree. Yeah, I would say yes.
All right.
And I'm
screw you, Corey. You don't get a vote.
Yeah.
100%. The living force unanimously agrees that
Corey would totally have said no.
He totally would have said no.
But on that quote on 437 that said, but her victims can't speak up because their civilization died with their planet. That's Hera looking at the big picture as a general and not as just a soldier, as a person on the ship. It's like, it's what you did. That's great that you've changed and you've turned over a new leaf and you come to the Republic and you want to help. But remember all those lives that those people that you killed on that planet, that you helped out, that you helped with Operation Cinder. Do you not remember that kind of? So that's probably where Hera's coming from. But it looks like she, I guess, in redemption terms, she comes to see that Quell is redeemed. And 3 pages later, not very long, huh?
And you know what? I gotta say, there's a lot of things that I can argue about in Star Wars. I trust Hera Syndulla.
Absolutely.
Whatever she says, I have learned you will trust Hera.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a shirt. Or maybe a button.
Let's talk about another captain, if you will, Soran Keize. It's time to talk about Keize, y'all. I have been itching to talk about this character for a while.
Let's do it.
This is probably how we're going to round out this part of the round table so we can spend some time here. But you know, we've seen Keize go through a lot of growth as well throughout this trilogy. We saw him leave his squadron the same way Quell did. We saw him attempt to start a new life under the alias of Devon, only to be pulled right back in and to rise all the way back to commander of the 204th and really just go for that role, like hardcore,
Oh
just
yeah.
right back
Oh
into
yeah.
it. So let's clarify one thing straight away. What was Keize's goal? And the reason that I bring this up is there's some conflicting statements I feel like that he makes in this book. So I'm interested to hear what you think about this. On page 23, according to Keize, the 204th mission is this: to purge every world tainted by Imperials who dared to escape the Emperor's shadow. And that makes him sound very loyal to the Emperor, very loyal to the Empire itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on page 55, Keize states, let the Empire fall, but not its soldiers. And so here he doesn't at all sound loyal to the Emperor, but rather to his troops. What are your thoughts on that? What were your thoughts overall on what Keize was trying to accomplish?
That's kind of where I fall, was with the second quote where he says, "Let the Empire fall, but not its soldiers." I feel that he is, and this was laid out in the book. He knows that if he stays with the Empire, they're constantly going to be fighting against the New Republic. It's going to be a constant fight. They're always going to be searched for. They're always going to be hunted down, like basically hunted down like cattle, until the last remnants of the Empire are gone. Or he can help save his crew. He can help kind of, I guess, push them off to get them new lives, but that ultimately in the what I see as the climax of this book, when he goes to Coruscant and tries to destroy those records, he's trying to save the lives of the Imperials that are trying to have a life after they've served or done their duty with the Empire. So I feel like he's trying to provide a life for the troops that either, I don't know, didn't have like a choice in the matter of joining the Empire, because of how they were brought up, or pretty much they joined the Empire to begin with, I think, for power. But once the Operation Cinderhead, I think they all, not all of them, but most of them saw that was kind of they were in a bad deal to begin with. But
Yeah.
I think he's definitely trying to save the soldiers and save them from being scorned by not even scorned by the Republic, by being hunted down by the Republic for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think Andrew in our chat makes a great point. He says, I think the first quote you said, Charles, was to get the soldiers to buy in, and the second one shows his true motivation. And I think that's also where I land, similar to what you were saying, Wes. I think he is that definitely my people above everyone. Like, I know why they did what they did. They signed up like I did. I left because I thought it was morally reprehensible, and I thought that more would follow me. They didn't. Okay, that's fine. I'll come back. I will do what we set out to do. And then I think he's also smart enough that within this book itself, he realizes it's not working. He's like, this whole second cinder, all these things, this is not gonna happen. So all I can do is save my people. And I think, Aaron makes a great point as well. Says Keize is a great example of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our point of view. Keize is absolutely that. He flows. He adjusts as he needs to. And at the end of the day, all he cares about is the people that were loyal to him. He will then return in kind. So I think, honestly, his final mission in that climax you talked about, Wes, which I agree, that whole thing with Coruscant is the climax of the book, and is frankly where this book took off for me. It's one of the most exciting third acts in any Star Wars novel, period, I'll say.
Oh, it's great.
I think is where we see who he is. He is like, I got you into this mess. I will get you out. I don't care what happens to me. I will save every single person because they don't deserve to be punished for choices that I made for them. And I think that it's weird because he definitely did some genocide, some light genocide, a little bit. Like, we can't ignore that. We cannot ignore that. But I also can't fault him for being like a very protective leader. He is an honorable leader, I think, at the end of the day, that also definitely dabbles in genocide.
Well,
it's not funny. Don't laugh.
It's rough. It's rough.
On that point, one passage in particular, I think, really brings things into perspective. And it's actually the full passage from page 55, part of the quote that I just read a second ago. And it's when Keize and Quell are having a conversation about what the Empire may have looked like if they had immediately reassembled after Endor in a unified front. How even without the Death Star and the Empire, or the Emperor rather, they think that the Empire could have endured and likely controlled some portion of space. But they also realized that the surviving Empire would have represented the worst of what the Empire had to offer. And that the alternative, which was outright losing the war, would mean every Imperial would be punished in the harshest manner possible. And so Keize, basically says, like, that's why I'm fighting. That's why we have to win, because that is an unacceptable alternative. And so Quell asks Keize, do they know that win or lose, we're all doomed? And Keize says, no. Some perhaps. For others, I think it would make no difference except to crush what spirit remains. I will do everything I can to save them. Let the Empire fall, but not its soldiers. I will save them. So Keize's loyalty is to his troops, ultimately, just like y'all are saying. And I have to ask then, despite the terrible things that he has to do to accomplish that goal, such as reenacting Operation Cinder, is his mission admirable at the end of the day? Do you find his actual intent admirable?
I'm going to tie this into Andrew's other question
Yeah.
in the chat. He says, can honor and evil coexist? Keize puts that in. And I think as a thought experiment, I think I could make that work. I think I could say yes. But for the purposes of earnest human emotion, for what Star Wars actually means, like if we're taking away the hypotheticals, if we're putting away into like the stories, I don't think so. I think that you lose any kind of moral high ground when...
Don't try it, Anakin.
Yeah, exactly.
I have the moral high ground.
Like when the deaths of so many innocent people are the cost for your mission, whatever it may be. For like, it's you being like, what I am doing fits my code. Jose makes a good point in the chat. Says, he says, yes, his evil can live within a code. I think there can be a code, but if your code says, in my personal opinion, that these millions of people will then die in horror, in order for me to save my friends and not have them suffer other consequences. For me, I think that's when honor leaves. I think that the purest definition of honor is doing whatever you have to spare the life or well-being of innocents. I think is pretty naturally honorable. And I think Keize starts there, but he gives a little more, and he gives a little more, and he gives a little more. And at a certain point, his honorable beginning, like, ooh, yes, Aaron, like Barriss Offee's bombing of the Jedi Temple, is it maybe an honorable point, maybe an honorable idea, but the means you use to execute them then diminish that completely because you have caused so much pain and suffering.
It's the epitome of the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
That is Soran Keize's path.
Right.
Yes.
And so he feels that if he kills a couple thousand people, then he'll save millions, right? Possibly billions. And that's not even a sure thing, right?
No.
That's not even a sure thing. If he wipes away those records, that the Imperials will be exonerated and nobody will ever find them again. I mean,
which also could go the opposite way. He could also be killing millions to save thousands. You know, like the numbers could really flow either way. Also, we're talking about like the idea of morality and how many deaths are worth things. So I'm gonna have a third glass of wine. I'm giving myself permission. Because my God, guys,
this is a heavy book. This was a three glass of wine book.
So if he doesn't destroy those records, then millions die, but those 1,000 people that were around Coruscant live. Damn it, Eric.
Or do they die? Or is there mercy? Is it also assuming the worst, which also might be true? Like, there's so many.
There's so much.
I don't know.
Mom!
There's so many. I don't know.
Well, so on page 29, I have to ask you all this then. Page 29, Keize says this. I don't doubt there are Imperial soldiers who have done appalling things, but what are the odds that the rebels can judge the fates of their enemies fairly? And that question, that quote, it was the second half that was supposed to hit us. But for me, it was the first half that hit me when he's like, I don't doubt there are Imperial soldiers who have done appalling things. So he says that as if the 204th and he himself are removed from that statement, as if they aren't destroying entire worlds, as if he did not say on page 27, genocide was an onerous task without a Death Star to quicken it. So obviously,
or as Idris Elba says in the Oscar-winning film, or should be an Oscar-winning film, Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, genocide, schmenocide.
Okay.
Right. Of course.
All right.
Of course, it's not an Oscar-winning when it's Hobbs and Shaw.
That movie's amazing.
Maybe if it was only Hobbs and Shaw, then yes.
Yeah.
There's Fast and Furious.
All right, but obviously Keize thinks that his mission itself is a just one.
Yeah.
But do you think he also sees that how he's accomplishing it? Like, does he find that justifiable? Because based on that comment in and of itself, he doesn't seem to be viewing himself as one of the bad apples.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that way too, because this is also part of the larger conversation we're having in the world right now, which is like, I mean, how much can you trust the courts? You know, I mean, we're literally living through a time right now when a lot of, especially our country, I know we have a lot of international listeners. Hi guys, we love you all. The U.S. is going through a time right now where how much can you trust authority? How much can you trust that justice will be served appropriately? And that is being questioned a lot, and that is being proven that isn't always the case. And to have now a Star Wars novel that's tackling that question is fascinating. Like, we deal with the it's only a few bad apples question quite a lot on a weekly basis in the United States. And I think the way Keize reacts is very interesting, to be like, how can I trust that a court system will look at the people that I know are honorable, that have maybe made a couple mistakes here and there, in a fair fashion? And it's like, I don't know, man. This was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And nowadays we're still having trouble with it. So I think that is one of the fundamental questions of life in a society with an organized government, with a government that you want to be able to trust, of course. And like Harris said earlier, you said, Charles, that quote about it being a 1-year-old government is also very pressing. Like, this is new. The New Republic doesn't know what it is yet. Does it want to be something that has a zero tolerance policy with Imperials? Or does it want to have a all forgiveness policy that also maybe allows the Imperial remnant to rise up because they're not a strong enforcement? Like, I get Keize's hesitation.
Wow.
And yet you can't go kill people. It's hard. Star Wars, man.
I know. Well, despite the terrible things that Keize does, we also see that he's not outrightly malicious in some scenarios. Like on page 221, after shooting down Will's A-Wing, Keize actually says to no one in particular, he kind of whispers this to himself in his cockpit. He says, "If you live, Will Lark, I hope you find the peace you dreamed of." You know, so here we see him actually, after having just maybe killed yet another person, he doesn't even wish them harm, you know? And so I think it does speak towards his heart a little bit. I mean, it's very conflicting, right? Because he shows compassion towards one that he's killed when on the grand scale he's killing millions. But what did that moment mean to you? What kind of insight did that give you into his character?
Ooh. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that in a different time, different place, Soran Keize has a beer with every single one of these pilots. Like, there's no way he's not a great rebellion general. And I think this moment hit that. You know, I think he is a person that made a choice to join a side at one point and is now going to stick with that. But within him is definitely the potential to be that force for the rebellion or the New Republic, for the quote unquote good guys, which I think makes it all the more tragic that he chose the Imperials, you know?
I think that just in that that sequence alone when he's fighting, where he's doing the one-on-one with Will. He respected Will, where he had to. Will's flying this junked up, put together A-wing, and he's going toe to toe with Keize, and he has a couple of faults in the A-wing, and he's trying to keep it together, but in the end he gets shot down. But with that quote saying, "If you live, Will Lark, I hope you find the peace you dreamed of," he's like, "Man, if you're alive down there, more power to you, because I really put a hurting on you, and I respect the way you fly, man. You really impressed me."
Yeah. And real quick, a slight tangent here, because I keep forgetting to say these during the show. If all these quotes, if all these pages are hitting you in a different way as you're listening to us talk about them, I hope they are. I hope we're bringing more insight. Maybe you had the ebook of this and you want the physical copy, or maybe you have a friend that you know would love this, but you don't want to lend your copy out because you're not getting that back. We've all been there. Wes gloriously put a link to Victory's Prize in our show notes for this very episode in the YouTube description. So just a quick plug as we're getting near the end of Soran's part and the end of this episode. Make sure to check out that description every show, because there are links where you can get more copies of this book, that beautiful book Wes is showing right now. There's collections with all these different pilots. There's links to other reviews. So if this stuff is hitting you in a new way and you maybe want to get another copy, or you want to check out maybe our video or written review you didn't check out the first time, those links are in the description. Click through to those. It helps us out a little bit, and maybe gives you yet another way to look at these pilots. So just a quick little mini ad for ourselves there that I forgot to do earlier.
Yeah. Or maybe you've never read this book and you're just chilling here in part 2 of the Roundtable.
And
You're
like,
a total
whoa!
chess and
Wow,
Chadic,
you're doing
but
good.
welcome.
Yeah.
So on page 24, then Keize says this: the task he'd been given by Admiral Sloan was not the task Soran would have chosen, yet it sufficed. He needed the true empire to keep his people alive, at least until it doomed them all. So my question here is, what is the true empire? Is it those that are loyal to the emperor? Is it those that are loyal to the ideals of the empire? Is it the 204th? Are those who are loyal to Keize? Like, what is the true empire?
In Keize's eyes,
Yeah.
I think it's just those that are loyal to each other. I think that in his mind, his empire is just his boys. It's his people, you know?
Your empire. Sorry.
Yeah.
You keep saying things.
Man,
Dang, that was
You're
good.
so good at that.
That was amazing. Yeah. I think his empire is just his people. It begins and ends with those that he can be side by side with.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's almost like it's a third person in the battle. There's the Empire, there's the New Republic, and then there's just dudes.
Yeah,
It's people,
just
you
dudes.
know?
Absolutely. They're just dudes.
Yes.
Dudes and dudettes.
I want to see that. I want to see the galactic civil war between the Empire, the New Republic, and the dudes.
And the dudes. It's all Big Lebowski's just
Yeah,
running out and be like, that's just like your fighter, man.
Dude.
So I think y'all have already talked about this a little bit, but on page 361, Quell says, she realized instinctively why the New Republic had left Coruscant to the Empire all these months. A single stray bomb or turbo laser blast might kill millions. Would Keize kill so many? She wanted to deny it, yet it would be a rounding error in the tally they'd murdered together. So
He would be a rounding error. That's why Freed's so good, man.
Rounding
Who thinks
error.
about that? That's incredible.
Those are lives
millions.
in that rounding error.
Rounding
Exactly.
error.
Jeez.
Exactly. So is there any limit to finding Keize's mission admirable? I'm curious, because at face value, you know, he's attempting to save the lives of those he's in charge of, but he's fine with killing millions on Coruscant to save at most hundreds of his own people, you know, thousands maybe of Imperials, maybe tens, hundreds of thousands, maybe. Is that still admirable? And would it be admirable if he was trading a life for a life? I mean, when you move these numbers around and these tally marks, is there any point where you can find what Keize is doing palatable?
I think it all has to do with your point of view of what your ideals are, right? Like what's right in your heart. If being an Imperial and trying to live life free and clear of the New Republic is the right way to go, then kill millions of people that don't believe in what you believe in is fine with you. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where diplomacy, comes in. Where
Yeah.
no killing on either side, just try to find peace with diplomacy.
I think
When
Keize prefers aggressive negotiations.
I think so.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think that's negotiations with a fighter pilot. Yeah, I mean, you also get those stories where it's worth a squad of 6 heroes just to save one innocent life, and that's the hero story. So I think that and maybe also maybe I'm just exposing myself. Like my personal sense of honor, I think, goes in the opposite direction of the math equation. I think when it's more heroes willing to risk themselves for less innocence, I think that's where true admiration and honor comes. I think that obviously you want to save as many people as you can, but the willing sacrifice of a lot of innocence for, again, in this case, I want to keep reminding myself that like Keize is also saving them from the probability that they won't get judged fairly.
Right.
Like
right.
it is definite death for a hypothetical punishment. And
Right.
it's like, I think that's where he loses it, is that it's life and death for these innocent people, and it's prison time or something else, possibly for the friends. And Wes, you hit it on the head though. I mean, depending on what your personal view is, you might read this book totally different, which I think is the cool part about this series, is Fried writes it so specifically and so technically, and yet you can absolutely find whatever you need to within it to support the point of view you believe in. And that's very interesting.
What's crazy to me is I obviously think Keize was wrong in what he was doing. And I think Quell ended up choosing the right thing. Yet I kind of don't like Quell as a character, and I kind of love Keize as a character. Isn't that weird? Like,
yep.
I mean, I feel the same way. I liked Keize as a character. I really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Villains are fun to hang on to when they're interesting. I mean, we are so spoiled now.
Is he a
that
villain?
we
That's
are
a great question.
We are past. That's a good question. But we are past the good is a villain just pure evil thing for the most part. Most of our villains now are interesting, and they have layers. I think if they don't have layers, they are boring. Frankly,
It's so hard not to quote Shrek right now, but go on.
Yeah, they are onions, Charles. All our villains are onions.
What about a parfait? Okay, sorry. Good.
Oh, and I think that this is a series about people finding who they are. Keize never questioned himself. He knew exactly what he was about.
Yeah.
Quell was a little more malleable, and that I think that gives Keize an air of steadiness and a little more of an air of he has a solid foundation, which is maybe more interesting to read about sometimes than someone who's not entirely sure. Which by the end, when they both kind of meet on that even keel in his last moments, is such a cool moment, because I think he sees her as the solid foundation that he always wanted her to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it just happens to be on the wrong side for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Real good. It's real good.
On page 384, Keize says this quote: "If a record of the Empire's sins exists, it will breed violence for decades." So, here Keize makes it sound as if what he's doing is going to likely save lives in the long run. And y'all have brought this point up, right? One mass casualty event now on Coruscant, and maybe decades of atrocities are going to be avoided.
Right.
But on the other hand, by destroying the data bank and saving his own troops, he's also sort of damning all the Imperials who weren't necessarily evil, but rather were cogs in the machine. Because think about people like Jude Edevin from Lost Stars. She was an Imperial scientist.
Yeah.
Yet I would argue there was not really an evil bone in her body. And if the data bank is gone, there's no way to differentiate between Imperials like her and those who committed terrible atrocities. They would all be judged the same, right?
A great point. That's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, me neither. The details within that data, whether they were just paper pushers and pencil, and what were they? Oh God, what what was the word they had in there from the last book we read? Oh God, they were not desk jockeys, but they were. Forgot. Anyways,
I don't, dude. We read so many books for this show. I greatly enjoy it, but my gosh, I don't know.
But
yeah. I mean, any excuse to bring up Lost Stars.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But that's a great point.
So,
I mean, there are. How can it? Basically, he's going on the version of "trust me, bro" as law of the land, and I'm not sure if that's really going to fly in a courtroom as much as solid evidence would.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I think though that shows it. It really is just about Keize's own people. It's not about the Empire. It's not about any of that. It's about helping his own people.
Yep.
But on page 419, Quell says to Keize, now this is getting towards the end of the book when they're having their final skirmish. And she says, "We were murderous bastards, and being true to one another doesn't make it any better. It just means we don't stop when we figure out how bad it's gotten." To which Keize says, "Maybe. Or maybe I truly believe in putting my people first. Maybe you finally found something to believe in too." So, I mean, that really just hit me pretty hard. What Quell said in particular, being true to one another doesn't make it any better. It just means we don't stop when we figure out how bad it's gotten. So you can't hide behind this virtue of being true to your people. Of wanting to put your people first. You can't hide behind that when you take what you're doing in the name of that loyalty,
Right.
At face value.
I mean, you want to talk about things that are also prescient. I keep saying pressing and prescient in the modern day, and that's loyalty. I mean, how many times do we find out things about people and they're like, how did this not get brought up? How does it not get exposed? And it's like, well, my friends were loyal. And it's like, what are those bounds? How far does the loyalty to a friend go when the suffering of others comes into play? I mean, that's also an eternal question. It's tough, man.
Yeah. It's true. But if I had to pick one moment, I think in this entire book, which is hard to do, but one moment that stopped me in my tracks, it was on page 420. And
nice.
Nice. And that's tomorrow.
Good one.
We got one.
During his struggle against Quell to carry out his final mission, Keize absentmindedly says over the comm, and I don't remember exactly how to pronounce this word, but he says, "I wish there was time for Mijura." Mijura, however you pronounce it. Maybe it's Mahura. I don't know.
Majura.
Like Mijura.
It confuses Quell because she doesn't know what he's talking about. But what he's referring to is a beverage called Mijura that he shared with his dig rig crew on Vernid back when he was traveling around under the alias of Devin in Alphabet Squadron. So think about this. On the brink of potentially killing millions of people in service to his friends, despite how desperately he believes in what he's doing, it seems he doesn't want to have to be doing it. He's longing for a simpler time. And I think that one statement gave us a glimpse into the heart of the man that nothing else ever did. He wishes he was just Devin again. He wishes he was back with his friends, not in the middle of a war, just having a drink.
Yeah, man. I think he loved being Devin.
Yeah.
You can tell like his whole plot with a young kid that wants to be an extremist, like talking him down, like doing all that stuff, and also just being a worker and hanging out, and the regret that comes when he has to be Soran Keize again at the end of the first book it's such a cool epilogue, right? Because you get that moment. But that moment, God, that's a great. I didn't connect those, but I love that because it doesn't erase how bad the stuff he's doing is.
Right.
But it does absolutely confirm, like you're saying, the fact that sometimes people that are doing horrible things just know that they want to be sipping drinks with their buddies. That at the core, they're the same as anyone else. They just got caught up in this horrible thing.
Or at the core, he is a villain, and villains just like to put their feet up every once in a while and clink drinks with their friends too,
Also true. I mean, who doesn't like to clink drinks? I mean, it is it is interesting because they always,
Yeah.
there's the sayings about when you're about to die, like, what do you miss most? And everyone says, oh, it's time. I wish I had more time with my family, or what it is. And that, not performing. He's not performing for anyone. It's just him and Quell. He's not giving a speech. The most vulnerable he is just simpler time. The most celebrated commander in the 204th, and he's killed so many and done so many offensives, and he's not dreaming of glory. He's dreaming of being invisible. And like, there's some tragedy in that he died visible as a commander to someone that knew him the most. He didn't die quietly amongst friends sipping a drink.
Wow, that's really good.
It's sad, man.
It is. It is sad. And to round this out, us talking
Still
about
evil,
Keize,
still bad things,
still an evil person,
still genocide, but sad.
So to round this out, I want to talk about Keize's final act on page 422, and it's that he releases a broadcast that basically enumerates all of Shadowwing's war crimes, and he takes personal responsibility for all of them. And he's attempting to absolve his soldiers of their sins, basically. And Quell sees this broadcast, and she thinks, even in death, Keize sought to protect his people. So, final thoughts on Keize. Is he a good soldier? Is he a good leader? And is he a good person?
I would say yes, he is a good leader. Man, I struggle with him being a good person. Because he has that conflict with the climax of the book of whether he should kill to save lives. That's kind of where I get put on the fence whether he's a good person or not. Because the instances of where he is a good person come to light a lot in this book, as in he's trying to save his troops, he's trying to save people, he's trying to give people a better life after this war ends. But just the things that he's done, that he's gone along with throughout the years, kind of, you can't really get past that part. Because I think in this instance, much like Chass, he saw himself as either, when he went back as Soran Keize and not as Devon, he was either dying to save his soldiers, or he wasn't getting out. Well, I guess he just wasn't getting out alive, period. He was going in to die. What I think.
Yeah. Jeez, Andrew in the chat. There's no such thing as a good person. That also might. I mean,
yeah.
Also, there may be that. I mean, no one is 100% good except for Loden Greatstorm. Listen to our light of the chat Roundtable. But I think that I would agree. I think Loden. I think that Keize is a good leader, unequivocally. I don't think he's a good soldier because I think he wants to be in charge too much. I think he has trouble following orders that aren't his, as we see a couple times. But for a good person, I think that he is good. Again, hell is paved with good intentions. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He has good intentions. And I think he wants to be good, but I think he's willing to sacrifice just a bit. Not even just a bit. He's willing to sacrifice way too much in pursuit of selfish gains. Because even though it's his people, it's other people, it's still his squad, people he knows. It's still a little selfish. And he's willing to just sacrifice the blood loss. Like, Operation Cinder is terrifying. Like, think about the Battlefront 2 campaign. That is the death of worlds on a massive scale. It's horrifying. And he's like, yeah. Like, doesn't he really question in order to save his buddies, who also, we haven't really talked a lot about that part, may have done terrible things. Like, some of them may have not, but some of them definitely did horrible stuff.
Yeah.
So I think he trips in that point. I think he had the capacity to be good. I think if he had been surrounded by more good influences, more good forces, other than Palpatine, other than grandmother, other than, these really bad leaders, maybe he could have been better if he had been aside Hera, Mon Mothma, etc. But for me, I don't think he gets there. a great leader. I get why you'd follow him into battle. I get why he's thought of fondly. I'll probably remember him as fondly as a character. Absolutely. But you can't be willing to kill that many innocents for the possibility of your own friends and still be considered a good person.
Yeah.
It's tough, though. It's tough.
I think that's fair.
My God.
Yeah, I know. Y'all, that's all I have for tonight. And you thought those were overarching questions? No, that was the character section of this roundtable. Next week, we will do overarching questions. We'll get somehow even deeper, maybe.
Somehow.
And then we will have some fun with some Easter eggs. But for now, I'll kick it back to Eric.
All right, man. Gosh. And again, just another shout out to, Charles writes up all these prompts by himself. We do not offer any input.
How many pages was it this time, Charles?
19 this time.
I don't think I want to say. Oh, okay. Yeah,
19.
Golly.
They really make this episode. And we hope that all of y'all, I know that some of y'all are listening to this live. Some of y'all listen to it in audio. Some of you may be listening to this 4 years later because you read differently. That's fine. I hope that you're getting really cool thoughts out of this because there is not a single book that we talk about that doesn't get more interesting to me through these roundtables. So I'm very excited. Next week, we will do our third part of this. We will not strive to make every book this year a 3-part roundtable.
No.
And I doubt they will be. But for a series that is ending like this, for Light of the Jedi, which started a whole new era, we want to give them the respect they deserve. As always, we want to hear your thoughts in our Discord, in those YouTube comments, in those iTunes reviews, anything you want. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know how you like the show. And again, thank you to all of you in the chat for hanging out. These comments really make our night. We can't wait to see you next week. But my friends, that will do it for tonight's episode of The Living Force. If you already support us on Patreon, you know what? Head over to Discord tonight. We're going to have our Aftermath after show. It's been a while. Head over to the video channel. Just hang out with us for a little while. Chat about, are any of us good people? Are we all doomed to go to the road to hell with bad intentions? Who's to say? But we'll have a nice, lovely chat. But a special thank you goes out to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for your amazing support of this show and to all things Youtini. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Charles is at C. Henkel. Wes is at Boss Wes. And Corey is at Night Shift Pediatrics and is at Doc Star Wars MD. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor. Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire. And Wes, what are you? Producer, community manager, and freaking showrunner tonight. Well done giving us all together. Thank you to Charles and Wes for podcasting with me tonight. Thank you to all of you in the chat for your amazing insight. We will see you next week. And as always, may the Force be with you.